was a boy called Odd, and there was nothing strange or unusual about that, not in that time or place. Odd meant the tip of a blade, and it was a lucky name. He was odd, though. At least, the other villagers thought so. But if there was one thing that he wasn't, it was lucky. His father had been killed during a sea raid 2 years before, when Odd was 10. It was not unknown for people to get killed in sea raids, but his father wasn't killed by a Scotsman dying in glory in the heat of battle as a Viking should. He had jumped overboard to rescue one of the stocky little ponies that they took with them on their raids as pack animals. Legends and myths and folklore make great fodder for fantasy adventure stories because you've got these larger-than-life characters. So I thought we'd move over to Scandinavia with Odd and the Frost Giants. Odd is an ordinary Viking boy who gets swept up in this effort that the Norse gods have to fight off their enemies, the Frost Giants, and to defend their homeland of Asgard. I liked that it took me back not just to a different period in history, but also that there were these magical adventures that you just don't get in everyday life. It was interesting too because you got a sense of how the world was global. In the olden days, we think of globalization as being a very modern concept, but the book talks about how Odd's mother was a woman from Scotland who had been kidnapped by the Vikings and taken back to Norway. So it made me think about how our cultures do have a lot more connections than we realize. I'm also of Scottish descent, so I've probably got some Viking ancestors back there somewhere. So this was kind of an interesting way for me to think, hey, this is kind of cool. This could have been my family 1,000 years ago. Another thing that's going to appeal to parents about reading this book with their children is that it's written by Neil Gaiman. He won the Newbery Medal a few years ago for his book, The Graveyard Book. And that's just an indicator that he is a fantastic writer and that he writes quality books. He's written lots of fantasy and horror and sci-fi for teenagers and for young adults, and for adults, things like American Gods, Good Omens, and The Sandman Chronicles, which is a graphic novel series. This is one of his works that's more appropriate for younger readers. So this is something I think people can enjoy as a family. If your kids have seen the movie Thor recently, they're probably going to love this because Thor and his half-brother Loki are major characters. They were Norse gods, so this ties into Norse mythology. I would highly recommend this for kids who are big fans of Rick Riordan's series that are based on Greek and Egyptian mythology. My name is Mary Landrum. I am a children's librarian at the Northside branch of the Lexington Public Library. That means I get paid to read stories with young children and to read fantasy adventure books with elementary school kids.